With a proven track record in commercializing consumer products on a global scale, we've perfected and tested every aspect of Zega to ensure it meets the highest standard of design and manufacturing, while also looking great in the kitchens of tomorrow. With a vision for a trade sale inside 3 years and growing exit valuations of around 3 to 6 times revenue in the homeware sector, it's easy to see why Zega is a recipe for success. Invest today in the future of home cooking.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us tonight for our webinar or our update with Steve Maarbani. Steve's just smiling because my screen completely just bombed on me.
No, I'm smiling because I think if you don't have a shirt on, you might want to turn off your video.
There's a good way of starting it, and there's a really cute dog in the picture.
I mean, I don't mind. I just think it's a distraction.
My name is Cameron Talbot. I'm the Investor Relations Manager for the business. I assist with any investor queries when you've made an investment with the business, and I work quite closely with Steve. Tonight's agenda is to address the following key points for you as an investor in Zega. It's to provide you with a business update, the financial position where we're at, capital requirements, what the strategy is going to be for the next 12 months, and any of your questions that you may have. If you have a question, please can I ask, there is a raise your hand function at the bottom of the Zoom screen. If you can please use that. There are going to be a large number of investors present tonight on this meeting, and we just want to try and make sure that nobody's talking over each other and that we can address each question and provide answers in a structured manner. So tonight, as I mentioned, we're joined by Steve Maarbani, who's the CEO and founder at VentureCrowd. VentureCrowd is Australia's first equity crowdfunding platform. It's digital, it's exciting, and we bring brand new things every day to the market. Steve is a corporate lawyer and former PwC partner specializing in venture capital and private equity. He has been involved in the establishment of many Australian leading venture capital funds, including corporate venture capital funds. Steve is also a partner and member of the Innovation Advisory Council of the Retail Tech Ventures Fund and sits on the advisory board of a number of high growth companies. So I'm going to hand over to Steve, and please, if you have any questions, I will be addressing them for you and helping you through the process. Over to you, Steve.
Thank you, Tam, and thank you for joining us, everybody. First of all, can I say that I hope you and your families have kept safe and well during this difficult period. Tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to give you an update of the Zega business. I'm going to hand over to Brendan Dunn, one of the founders, who can talk to you through the operational milestones that the business has reached over the last 12 months. We'll talk through its current financial position and the next stages of its growth strategy. Then we'll open up to questions. Most of you will know that I was an early investor in Zega. I'm also on the board of the company. So I am completely aligned with you in my desire to see this business succeed and to reach its full potential. Like all early stage businesses, there are challenges to overcome. There have been, there will be, and there will continue to be. No early stage company growth strategy is without its hurdles. But unlike any ordinary period in recent memory, other than perhaps immediately after the GFC, navigating an early stage business through COVID has added an additional layer of complexity and uncertainty to all businesses, but in particular to a business like Zega, whose original strategy was to manufacture patented product and distribute it into bricks and mortar retail through global homewares distributors. Before I hand over to Brendan, I just want to take you back briefly to February 2019, which is when we probably first came to you and offered you this opportunity. In that month, I joined the founders at a trade show called Ambiente to show the product for the first time to global distributors and retailers. For those that don't know, Ambiente is one of the world's largest homewares trade shows that's held every year in Frankfurt. And it's followed by the largest North American homewares trade show, which is held in Chicago 2 months later in April. At that time, the strategy of the business, as I mentioned, was to manufacture patented product and predominantly to sell it through global distributors covering all of the key foreign markets. And during that show, we met with a number of global distributors and issued, by the end of Ambiente, 12 term sheets for distribution arrangements that were to precede long-form distribution arrangements. Between them, those 12 term sheets covered Portugal, Spain, Italy, France, Germany, India, Egypt, the UK, Finland, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and Greece, as well as one of the world's largest direct response TV companies, Thane Direct. So at the end of February 2019, there was a lot of very, very good momentum around this company at a time where the product wasn't even finalized, I guess, in terms of tooling out of the factories. The intention at the time was that the parties would reconvene with those distributors in Chicago, enter into final contracts at that time, and use the Chicago trade show to lock in North American distributors who were not at Ambiente. And then by the end of April, after having attended Ambiente and Chicago, be in a position to use the funding that had been raised to finalize the tooling for the product, lock in the IP, and then basically fund the manufacture of product to fulfill orders from those distributors. That's not a bad place to be in such a short amount of time. But of course, in March of 2019, the world went into COVID freefall, and that led to global bricks and mortar retail being shut down for over 12 months, and in many places, such as in Australia, for over 18 months and closer to 2 years. Now, to the Zega team's credit, not only have they navigated the COVID challenges very well, they have managed to use those changing dynamics to their advantage in many ways, pivoting quickly and redirecting capital into an e-commerce strategy rather than a bricks and mortar retail strategy in order to generate online sales and to build another part of the business which had always been contemplated but wasn't necessarily the priority at the time. And those early online sales have now commenced, and Brendan will talk about that shortly. At no stage do the last 2 years, in my view, reflect the potential that the Zega business has. I think we're yet to see that. In fact, if anything, what it's done is it's pushed back the growth plan by 2 years due to largely COVID restrictions on bricks and mortar retail. All of the other assumptions which underlie the business at the time remain materially the same today. So with COVID restrictions now beginning to ease all over the world, the opportunity to enliven those discussions with bricks and mortar distributors that I mentioned in the markets we discussed earlier is now opening up. And that is demonstrated by the Zega team locking in the first global distribution agreement with Kasanova, Italy, for the Italian market. It's not a term sheet, it's a binding distribution agreement. I prepared it myself and arranged for its execution. So I'm comfortable that it does what it needs to do to lock in the obligations of the distributor for this product in the Italian market in advance of the Italian Christmas retail period. So what the business needs to do now, as a matter of immediacy, I think over the next month to six weeks, is to ensure that it has the capital to fulfill the first order by Kasanova so that it can arrive in Italy in November in time for the Italian Christmas retail period. Excuse me. So with that context, let me hand over to Brendan Dunn to give you an update on the business. Then we can discuss the strategy moving forward and then the next steps from there.
Thanks, Steve. Okay, guys, I'll give you a recap on what we've been doing recently and a commercial update of the business and where we're at. At the moment, we're currently producing in 2 factories in southern China. We're looking at producing in the future in Europe as well. We're currently on our 3rd production run of Zegas with a 4th run scheduled for the end of this year. We have set up warehousing and fulfillment in the United States and in Australia. So we have warehousing in Reno, Nevada, Sydney, Australia. We have our software development team located in India. supporting our iOS and Android apps and our back-end systems. In terms of sales, Zega, we launched directly to consumers 10 months ago in December 2020 in the United States and Australia. We're operating 2 e-commerce platforms, and sales to date are around 3,000 units, with our online revenue approaching around $500,000. We're getting very positive customer responses, and our return rate is less than 1%. So we really feel like we've learned a lot by selling directly to consumers online. We see that we validated the demand of the product. We're getting great reviews. So sales are going quite well online at the moment. In terms of intellectual property, we have 2 patents granted already, and several others are pending. And we have many trademarks and design registrations already completed. We had our IP, we had our patents independently valued by RSM at $3.1 million. We needed to do that in order to qualify for an EMDG grant from Austrade. So we're quite excited about the patents that we're getting granted, and what somebody like RSM is valuing them at. What else? We've received a lot of industry recognition and awards. Most recently, we were the Finder Awards, listed as the best retail product innovation. And we beat out some other finalists in that competition. They were Dyson and Oral-B. We were also the finalists in the International Housewares Association Global Innovation Awards. And recently we were featured in the inaugural, the Australian Top 100 Innovators, alongside Apple, Dyson, Samsung, Peloton, DJI. So, people are really relating to the product, both in the industry and with consumers. The next steps from a commercial point of view is that we're doubling down on our e-commerce strategy. So we're taking all the learnings that we've learned over the last 6 months. We're building new websites, new marketing campaigns, and we're just pushing on with that. We have a new digital marketing partner coming on board October 1st. And also to reach customers in more places, we're launching on third-party platforms as well this month, such as Amazon, eBay, Catch, Kogan, these types of places. We want to be able to touch customers online in as many different places as we can. Our international retail launch is, Steve mentioned earlier how that got, kind of set aside by COVID. But we're having kind of like a take 2 coming up. So we're exhibiting at Ambiente in Frankfurt in February, and we're also exhibiting at the Inspired Home Show in Chicago in March. And this is really a way for us to reach out to international retailers and distributors. But in terms of international distribution, the most exciting news that we have, of course, is the Kasanova deal. It's a really exciting step for Zega because it secures our entry into one of the most important kitchenware markets in the world. And, Kasanova is a very large retailer. They have over 500 stores. So we think that, this could be a really important step for Kasanova. The learnings that we have with Kasanova, we can roll out into other markets as well. So we're developing a new Italian website, Italian app, recipe content. We're working with the Italian MasterChef team, with their contestants, to build new product videos, etc. And if it works, the upside implications in unit sales are massive for us. So that's pretty much where we are at the moment. We're going strong online. We're about to do this deal with Kasanova, and we're looking to do more deals internationally as well.
Brendan, thanks for that. Just before we move on to the next bit, I just thought I might give you a couple of questions without notice. Apologies. Can you just remind this group of your background in consumer goods, and maybe just talk about some of the companies you've worked for and some of the products that you have co-created through ProductWorks?
Sure. So I've been in the housewares industry for around 15 years. I've been working with a lot of big brands in the past, such as Tupperware, Jamie Oliver, Alessi, Cucini, these types of brands. I co-created the Magic Bullet, which became the NutriBullet, which was one of the best-selling blenders in the world. And this, Zega is our first time where, we're building a brand ourselves. We always made products for other brand owners, but this is the first project where we're doing it for ourselves.
Yeah, and tell me about, just really quickly before we move on, tell me about your sense as someone who's been in this industry for a long time, how Ambiente went based on the discussions that we had and the level of interest and the number of term sheets. Is that to be expected? Was it positive? Was it average? How does that generally, I mean, I'm not a consumer electronics expert. I've never professed to be. You are. What was that experience? How do you rate that experience? And what were you expecting, COVID aside, to be the logical next steps for a product like this after having engaged with global distributors in the way that we did in February of 2019? What will be the logical next phases of this?
I think, COVID really interrupted our flow there. We got a lot of interest in Ambiente for the product. The next steps would have been to go to Chicago and to finalize those distribution deals. Of course, the Chicago trade show got canceled because of COVID. There hasn't been one since. So the next one is going to be in March coming up. And, that's really when we're going to tackle the retail international distribution from there on in. Up until now, we've been selling directly to consumers. It's allowed us to learn a lot about why people buy this product, what price points work, and to own the customer journey. So COVID has been bad for us, but it's been good for us also because, selling directly to consumers, you learn a lot more than you do when you sell to retailers. And I think we're in a stronger position now, having all that knowledge when we start going into international distribution deals.
So let me put you on the spot in relation to Italy. Italy is a very traditional culinary market, and this is it's an innovative, digitally enabled product. Are you surprised that the Italian distributors were the first to pick it up?
Yeah, I was. I think it has a lot to do with our relationship with that particular retailer. So we were able to speak directly to the CEO of Kasanova, and we were given the time to explain the concept to them. They took a lot of product on board and tested it and really liked what they saw in terms of the outcome. In the cookware market in Italy, they are the number one seller of cookware. So it's very encouraging for us to see them get behind it, sign a contract like this, take over the exclusive distribution for the whole Italian market, and to get somebody like MasterChef on board with their marketing. So this is really interesting, really good for us.
Now, I know you can't guarantee the outcome, but what is your expectation for Kasanova?
I don't know. I think 500 stores is really a lot. You don't need to sell very many units of Zega through each one of those stores to get some very good numbers. I think over 12 months we could be looking at $1 to $2 million in sales. That's not really a lot of units. $1 million in sales at the price that we're selling to Kasanova would only be 10,000 units. So it's not a lot if you think about it.
All right. Well, that's a good segue into sort of next steps. Obviously the next most important milestone for this business, in my view, and certainly the director's view, is to meet and fund the fulfillment of the Kasanova order to ensure that product can arrive in Italy by November. To do that, the business is going to need an injection of capital of circa 300 grand over the next 4 weeks. I also want to note this. So during the last 2 years, the founders have co-invested with every VentureCrowd syndicate in every tranche of capital that has been raised by VentureCrowd for this business. So they've co-invested alongside everybody else along the way as it's been required, and have not taken any salary or consulting fees of any kind out of the business in order to ensure that the capital that was raised was used as optimally as possible. I'm not sure exactly what the value of that contribution would be in dollar terms, but I expect it would be considerable given Brian, Brendan and Con's experience in the sector. So that's the first thing, a $300,000 raise to existing shareholders and VentureCrowd members over the next 4 weeks is the target. In parallel to that, we are also preparing an institutional capital raise targeting $2 million at a pre-money valuation of $6 million. We're in the early stages of documentation for that raise and are beginning to build a list of potential parties that we might want to speak to. That's definitely not going to happen in the next 4 weeks. So in order to fund Kasanova, it will need to be done through the first strategy, which is existing shareholders and the VentureCrowd network. Before I move to, I'm going to pause in a minute, go to Q&A, but I want to give you all the facts first. The ask here is that obviously in my view, it's critical for shareholders to come together to help meet this immediate need for capital if we can, in order to ensure that the Kasanova opportunity is able to be executed and ensure the business is in the best possible position when it launches its institutional raise. So there are 2 requests. The first is for existing shareholders to consider digging deep to help close that $300,000 capital gap. And you can do that by going to the Zega deal page on the VentureCrowd website, investing directly, reach out to myself or to Tam, and we can help you do it manually if you prefer. I was going to put the link in the chat below, but for some reason, I can't see a chat function.
Yeah, it's not, unfortunately, Steve, it's not loading, and I've been trying while you've been talking to get it loaded. It's not cooperating tonight.
That's all right. I mean, you guys know where the VentureCrowd website is. Zega is on the homepage. It's a couple of clicks and you're in. We will also circle back at the end of this with a copy of this recording and some additional information that Tam will send you tomorrow. We will put the link in there if anybody, for whatever reason, can't find it. So that's the first thing. Have a think about whether you can participate in that. It is essential to making sure that the Kasanova opportunity can be filled. The second request is if there are people in your network who may be interested in Zega, given the traction of the last 2 years, typically I think those that would have an interest, in venture capital, and ideally groups or people who have an understanding of retail, consumer goods, homewares or kitchenware sector. People who understand those areas will understand the potential of this business very quickly. You don't have to convince them about it. If you do have people like that in your network, I would ask you to sort of reflect on that overnight, have a think about who might be suitable, and please do make an introduction to myself or Tam, and I'd be happy to follow up with them to see if they can assist to close that capital requirement. That's it from me in terms of sort of the formal update. I'm going to open up to questions from the floor now. So if you want to...
So just because the chat's not working, you can't raise your hand like I asked at the beginning.
Right, yeah.
So if you can just ask, if you have a question, just unmute yourself and just say your name so that we know who we're speaking to initially. It'll be greatly appreciated. So apologies for the tech challenges, but hopefully we can make it work.
Hi, good evening. It's Kenneth Green here. I was just wondering if you have secured the chips that you will need to make all of the intelligent knobs, given the global shortage.
Yes, we have. We've forward ordered everything we need. The chips that we use in our product are still in quite high supply. So it's there's no shortage of these types of chips, Bluetooth chipsets that we're using. What we're using shortages is mainly in the automobile and other sectors.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a question for either Brendan or Steve?
Hi, this is Atul here.
Hi, Atul. Good to see you on the call.
Yeah, hi, Tam. Hi, Steve. I just wanting to ask you, what's the initial order from Kasanova for this first, the first run that you have, or how much is the number of units that they've requested for?
They have requested that we ship them 2,000 units at the end of this month. We we won't have quite that many ready for them. So what we have agreed is to ship them 1,116 units. And that's really just to take them through the first month while they're testing it. But we expect that that will be consumed quite quickly.
Any other questions from the attendees? So just to let everybody know that this update is being recorded. We will be sending it out in the next couple of days to investors. If you have any questions that come up after you've switched off or you've reviewed the recording, please feel free to send it to me via email or to Steve, and we can get them answered for you straight away and provide you with any additional information that you may need on this product set, as well as any of the upcoming capital raises that we're looking to bring to market. Is there anyone else that wants to make comments or say anything before we close out the meeting?
I'll just say one thing to give everybody time to think on that. If you do want to have a conversation about the capital raise, but don't want to ask the relevant questions here and now, please do feel free to reach out to myself or Tam, or we can organise a private call tomorrow to answer any questions you have, or put you in contact with Brendan, Brian, and Con, who can answer the operational questions that you might also have, but not be necessarily wanting to discuss in this forum.
And Steve, just to elaborate on that point, if you've got a capital manager that you've got a good working relationship with and have spoken to historically on Zega, they also have access to the information. If they don't have that information at their fingertips, they will also relate it back to Steve directly and provide you with what you need. So the capital managers are also able to assist you on this if you aren't able to get a hold of Steve and myself.
Hi, it's Kenneth here again. I do have a question about the status of our investments through VentureCrowd. As far as I know, units haven't been issued. There was an initial, so I invested through the wholesale process, and then there was a transaction to convert that to retail process. The website is unclear as to what the status is. Can you clarify what's going on?
Yes. So if you were part of the most recent raise, Kenneth, you would have come in as a wholesale investor, converted to retail. You won't be receiving units, and it won't be through a trust. It'll be the direct issue of shares by the company to you. So, but those shares have certainly been issued. So if you haven't received confirmation of that issue, why don't you shoot myself or Tam an email, and we'll just double check that for you. But I'm sure that all of the shares that needed to be issued have been, so we can check that for you.
Okay, and I believe that there's also a certificate related to the tax credit.
No, it's not quite a certificate. So your accountant will, what happens is Zega will notify the ATO of its ESIC tax position, and then we'll send you that confirmation or it'll appear on your investor dashboard. So that's all you'll need for your accountant to be able to claim it as a deduction for this financial year.
And so when do you expect that will be issued?
Well, you can have it whenever you need it. Usually, most people need it by June, right, of the financial year. But if you need it earlier, we can certainly provide it for FY21. But Zega won't be lodging it for FY22 until June of next year.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for either Brendan, Steve, or myself? Okay. On that note, please just keep an eye out for the recording, as I mentioned, that will be sent out to you shortly in the next couple of days. If you have any questions and you're not too sure about wanting to email them through, you can get a hold of either myself or one of the capital managers on 1300 039 655, and you can book a call with a capital manager through there, or they can put you through to the investor relations team, and we can assist you with any of your queries that you may have on your existing investments. So thank you very much, everybody, for giving us your time tonight. Hope everybody stays safe during these challenging times that we're experiencing. and hope you have a lovely evening. Thank you very much to Brendan and Steve for your time and for the valuable information you have provided tonight. And we look forward to interacting with everyone again in the near future, and hope you have a lovely evening.
Thanks very much, Tam. Thanks, everybody. Good
Thanks,
night.
everyone.
Night all.